Good evening, and thank you for joining us tonight for our Village of Alsip Committee meeting. Today is January 11th, 2021. We'll call this meeting in order at 7:30. Can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Trustee Dalzell.
Here.
Trustee Zielinski.
Here.
Trustee Juarez. Here. Trustee McLaughlin.
Here.
Trustee Murphy.
Here.
Trustee Neves-Barza. Here. Mayor Ryan.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, officers' reports, starting with mine. A couple of notes first that I did engage today with I assigned an appraiser to evaluate that property that the village owns now at 3725 West 120th Place. Cost that was $400, and we have the deed to that property now. We leveled that, I don't know, a year and a half or so ago, Mike? Maybe a little more? Okay. Took a while, though, with all the covenants and whatnot, but we do have the deed to that property, and we'll get a market value on the property and resell that to someone that would like to build a new home out there. And certainly we can recoup our costs for the demolition and so forth then too at the same time. Next, my assistant Becky Smith reminded me this coming Wednesday at 10, it's actually from 8 till 11, Beck? And we only made it that long because different shifts. Sometimes you got police and fire coming and going, but we always do a holiday breakfast for the employees, and usually during the holidays it's kind of tough, so we do it after. The last couple of years everybody was in agreement. So this coming Wednesday, the 13th, I'm sorry, the 13th, I'm going to ask that we open the Village Hall at 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. to allow the clerk's office to participate in the village breakfast. We're going to start breakfast about 8:30 in the morning, Beck? Yes? Okay. Can I get a consensus from the board to agree to that, to open the Village Hall at 10 a.m. on Wednesday morning?
Mayor, the note that went out was January 15th.
I know, Becky
Did we change
corrected
it?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the 13th.
All right.
Fine with me, Mark.
Okay. Maybe
Fine,
just,
yeah.
okay, all in favor? Sounds good.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. So, yeah, we leave the window open like that. That doesn't mean we're going to be here for 3 hours. It just said, like I said, police and fire have different shifts. When they can come in for breakfast, we have it available for them. And they'll be here in the boardroom. We clear this out. First on your agenda this evening, on my report, mayor's report, you had a request to approve the mayor's appointment of Alsip resident Joan Ross as a member of the Planning and Zoning Commission with her term to expire January 1st, 2024. Her appointment fills the vacancy of Commissioner Jim Tarquino, who resigned because he moved recently. Jim actually moved out of state. So Ms. Ross said she is available, and we welcome her for that appointment. Next was what we were looking at the appointments, and because of COVID and whatnot, it's been kind of hard to get together with a lot of these next couple of people that are on here, but this way we can update our list at the same time. I spoke to everybody last week. Number 2 is a request to approve the mayor's reappointment of Alsip resident Chuck Rolfson as a planning and zoning commissioner with his term to expire January 1st, 2024. Number 3 was a request to approve the mayor's reappointment of Alsip resident Kevin O'Connell as a member of the Police and Fire Commission, expiring January 1st, 2024. And number 4 was the request to approve the mayor's reappointment of Alsip resident Jim Quinn as a member of the Police Pension Board, and that expires January 1st as well, 2024. Number 5 was this is a request for approval of an ordinance of the Village of Alsip approving an agreement between the Village of Alsip and Taco Burrito King Incorporated for the sale and redevelopment of property located at 11706 to 11730 South Pulaski Road, the Village of Alsip, Cook County, Illinois, in furtherance of the objectives of the redevelopment plan and project approved for the Pulaski Road Corridor TIF redevelopment project area. Everyone got this agreement, sales agreement, emailed to them, and just to kind of get to the specifics of it, Taco Burrito King was the only party to respond to a request for proposals for the purchase, sale, and redevelopment of the property located at 11706 to 11730 South Pulaski. Terms of the agreement to be approved by the passage of an ordinance to be considered at our next meeting on January 19th, 2021, to include the sale price of $400,000. They're going to give us a deposit of $20,000 with a payment of $180,000 at closing, payment of $200,000 at the earlier of 18 months after closing or at the opening date of the new location for the Taco Burrito King restaurant will be paid at that time. Closing date on this project will be on or before March 21st, 2021. So we're looking for that to close at the end, this coming March, subject to extensions if there's anything needed for due diligence. Economic incentives up to $50,000 toward the construction of a new parking lot, exterior lighting and signage. Those are all TIF eligible expenses. The incentive is to be funded after a certificate of occupancy is issued by the village. So we're not paying that right now. That's paid before the subject property is opened. And the ordinance kind of covers everything I pretty much just read, with the exception of what you can anticipate being built at that location is going to be to redevelop the village. Well, first off, the village owns that property, just for the record. That's approximately 37,400 square feet of land at that location, and the developer is going to develop approximately a 4,800 square foot building, retail building, consisting of 3 commercial suites with drive-through windows, one of which will be for the Taco Burrito King restaurant. Subject property has not been subject to growth, and the subject property has not been subject to growth and development through investment by any other private enterprise, and the development cannot reasonably be anticipated to occur without these economic incentives. So again, we welcome Taco Burrito King for making this offer. Did anyone have any questions on this? No? This is actually, unfortunately, the original project that was supposed to go there was Riza's Mediterranean Restaurant, which that would have been a great project over there, but his business model basically is it's a buffet place. It's mostly buffet. It's Mediterranean food. It's great. I've had it up on the north side. He had a location in Andersonville, downtown Chicago. They just closed. He had another one in Oak Brook, but due to COVID, too many barriers to try and build a restaurant in a buffet atmosphere, which prohibited him from building. So again, we're fortunate to have Taco Burrito King step up and develop something on that property. So I'll have that on the agenda next week for approval. Next, we had the clerk's report.
Thank you, Mayor Ryan. Presentation of the December 2020 FOIA report. There were 30 requests last month. Items 2, 3, and 4 are all approval of minutes that had been previously presented. So item number 2 is approval of minutes of the February 25th, 2019 committee meeting, which had been previously presented for approval on March 11th, 2019. Approval of the minutes of March 11, 2019 committee meeting, which had been previously presented for approval on April 29th, 2019. And item number 4 is approval of the minutes of the March 25th, 2019 committee meeting, which had been previously presented for approval on May 28th, 2019. And then we have 2 new minutes, presentation of minutes for February 10th, 2020 and February 24th, 2020. And then the last on my report is discussion of early voting for the April 6, 2021 election. As everybody may recall, early voting was declined for the fall election. This year's election date is April 6th. Early voting will take place between March 22nd and April 5th, 2021. The letters requesting contact and/or consent are supposed to be in the mail today, so I wanted to bring it to the board's attention to have any kind of discussion or consent so that once the letter does arrive, I can respond accordingly. We did have conversation with the clerks in the clerk's office, and they are in favor of having early voting.
Well, I was in favor last time, and I'm in favor this time for early voting.
Well, I'll have to say my biggest negative against it was the extended hours that they were insisting on for the
And-
November election. So-
And I understand that. Trustee McLaughlin, I did check right before the meeting, and there are no hours yet posted on Karen Yarburger's site under 2021 election information, so I'm assuming the date, the times of the day will be included when I do get the notice, but I wanted to start the conversation.
I was going to say, because historically, the hours have been fine and coincided close enough with our working hours, but
Correct.
the hours for the November election were excessive.
Right. They had extended it on Saturdays and Sundays in particular. Correct.
But it's giving the people the opportunity to exercise their right to vote, so I
They
think,
can vote on election day.
I mean, people have, we don't know their life schedules and so forth, and not everyone has a typical 9 to 5 and so forth, so in fairness to them as well, or other constraints they might face in order to coordinate someone to bring them physically to vote, I think we should just offer it. I was in favor last time, we didn't offer it, and I'm in favor again this time.
Any other questions on it?
No, as long as the COVID numbers keep declining, I'm in favor of it as well.
Well, you have to always look at it too, like this is a taxpayer-funded facility, and the taxpayers, we saw droves of them coming in here, at the November election, and we weren't able to facilitate, and it was probably more of a hassle trying to redirect them elsewhere. And I was a little miffed that other taxing bodies didn't assume that responsibility, but they didn't. So I think only because you didn't see them go to parks or schools or anywhere else and stuff then too, I think we do have an obligation to facilitate what happens here and stuff then too. So I would agree as well. We should have that. We should have a voting, polling place here.
And that is all under my report unless anybody else had any other comments, Mayor.
I do want to amend, I was going over those minutes, the presentation of the February 24th, 2020 meeting. I would amend line number 77. It says 5,000 square feet. Well, when I was describing Berry Plastics Building, that's 550,000 square feet.
Okay, we will make that correction for next week's vote.
And how many are still left to be presented? Because I see that item number 5, presentation of minutes of the February 10th, 2020 committee meeting, and then item 6, presentation of minutes of the February 24th, 2020 committee meeting. How many more are left to be presented and approved for 2020? Because we're already in 2021.
Let me see if we have the calendar here. The calendar from last year has been taken out of my notes. I will get you a count next week.
So we've reached the public forum. Did anyone in the audience wish to address the board this evening? Nobody? We'll go to the standing committee reports, Finance and IT. Trustee McLaughlin.
I will have the usual list of payroll and accounts payable for approval next week. Next, I have a request for a resolution approving the declaration and disbursement of surplus monies in the TIF District Number 1. Joyce, do you remember which payment this is? Is this 3 or 4?
This is our
Yeah.
third.
Oh, 5th?
Third.
3rd, okay.
We had a joint review board meeting last Wednesday, and it is the third payment we're making.
Okay. So the anticipation is that we still got another couple of these to go once a year for the next couple of years.
I think we said 6 total, yes.
Yeah, the excess funds were 600,000.
Okay. So this is a disbursement of $100,000. It doesn't say it on here, but that's what we're doing, right?
Yes. And that will be split between the park, the
taxing
library,
bodies.
the school districts.
Right.
And then next, I'm going to turn it over to Joyce. We have a presentation of the fiscal 20 audited financials.
Good evening. I'm going to be turning this over to John Cotrera from BKD to discuss the opinion on our audit. Then I will go into more detail after that to discuss the findings. So I'm going to turn it over to John.
You know, if you like to, Joyce, you can have John, you can hand him that cordless mic that's laying in front of you.
Okay.
Just with the social distancing, John, just makes it easier and stuff then, too. If you need to sit, I'm not sure, Sure,
I'll just have a seat.
wherever you like, yeah. You want to grab a piece of desk? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor,
Oh, you-
Village Board.
I'm sorry, John.
Are we
You
on?
know what? Use that other one, I guess. As long as you're sitting there, that one's
one's
mic'd
okay?
up. Yeah.
Okay. All set. Good evening, Mayor and Village Board. Thank you for having me here this evening to go over the results of the 2020 audit with you all. So hopefully everybody's been provided the draft deliverable or the final deliverable, audit deliverable reports, which is our opinion on the 2020 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. We also have our SAS 114 letter, our required communication with those charged with governance, along with our GAS opinion, Government Auditing Standards opinion that we issued. And we also issued 4 compliance opinions on the TIF districts as to whether the costs that were incurred within the TIF district were both eligible and allowable in accordance with state statute. So I'll go over each of those reports tonight with you all. And the first of which I'd like to go over is the CAFR, the largest of the documents, the annual financial, comprehensive annual financial report, which also includes our opinion. So if you are following along and do have your CAFR handy that you were provided, first part I want to start is on the opinion page, which is page 1 of the CAFR. And the CAFR is the responsibility of the village. It's the responsibility of management. Our responsibility is to provide an opinion as to whether the financial statements are presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And that's what we're doing on this letterhead, on this opinion page, which is on our BKD letterhead. We are rendering our opinion, which in 2020 is a clean or unmodified opinion. So this is the highest type of opinion you can receive, and it's also the opinion that the village received in the prior year. So again, a clean, unmodified opinion in terms of the financial statements being presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Directly after our opinion is management's discussion and analysis, and I know that the CAFR itself is a very lengthy, detailed document. The PDF I'm looking at right now is 201 pages, so I know that's quite a bit of information, especially for a person who might not have a financial reporting background. For that reason, I would highly recommend you spend some time with management's discussion and analysis if you have yet to do so. This is a really nice, clear, concise, executive-type level summary of the activity for 2020 written by management, providing significant changes in account balances and also providing discussion and putting some of those balances into context for the fiscal year. So that's management's discussion and analysis. And then after the MD&A, that gets us into the financial statements themselves, which I'm not going to get into too much detail in terms of the balances. But just a few things I would like to point out. The bottom of page 21 is the statement of net position here. And this is The bottom here on page 21 summarizes the village's net position by component. And just overall, the village has a net deficit of about $26.3 million. Most of that is driven by the village's pension and other post-employment benefit obligations. And there are also there's also a component in that position which is tied up in your infrastructure, referred to as your net investment in capital assets. That's your largest piece of positive net position, and then of course that unrestricted deficit, as I had mentioned, driven primarily by your pension and your OPEB liabilities. Page 22 just provides the detail for the statement of activities. So this is basically the income statement for the village on an entity-wide level basis. So this is all your funds aggregated into one spot. And you'll see that in 2020, the change in net position for governmental activities was relatively flat, a $78,000 decrease. For business-type activities, which is the water fund and heritage, that was up about $3.3 million from the prior year. And we'll just point out that we do reference a restatement here on the statement of activities and refer the financial statement reader to note 12. And that's because there was a correction to opening balances in 2020 for balances that were inaccurately reported in 2019. Which, again, required a restatement, and I'll get into a bit more detail on that in a few minutes here. Page 23 is the what we refer to as the fund-level financial statements. So these are the more traditional financial statements that we're used to seeing as governmental financial statement users. And this is where we break out each of the major funds of the village and aggregate the remaining non-major funds. So we see here we got a column for the general fund and then the road and bridge fund, which were the two major funds for the village this year. And again, I won't get into too much detail on these balances, but we'll just point out that the unassigned fund balance for the village in the general fund was about $16.1 million. And that represents about 9 months of expenditures in the general fund for 2020. So that's certainly a healthy number when you compare it to the GFOA's benchmark on that is about 2 months of reserve that an entity should have in that unassigned bucket, regardless of your size. So certainly a healthy number when compared to that particular benchmark. Page 25 provides the revenue and expenditures for 2020 through the major funds, and again, the general fund had a very good year, $6.2 million revenues over expenditures to help you get from the $23.2 million beginning fund balance to nearly $30 million, 29.4 to be exact, in your ending general fund total fund balance. Page 27 provides the budget to actual for the general fund. Budgeted about $22.4 million in expenditures compared to $22.1 in actual. Won't get into too much more detail on that. And then just real quick on page 31, that's also going to be the income statement for the business type activities or for your enterprise fund. So these funds are meant to operate in a manner similar to a private business or the private sector. Really, you want to see that you're recouping your costs here for whatever service you're providing to your citizens here, in this case water, sewer, and of course the senior citizens complex. And you'll see that both of those funds did have a healthy operating income of $2.1 million and $1.2 million respectively for those two funds. With that, we'll get into the notes to the financial statements, and I'm not going to get into the detail of each one of these notes either. If you were to compare it to prior year, you would notice a few things. First off, the debt footnote had some expanded note disclosures in accordance with the GFOA requirements that come along with that award that the village receives, the Certificate of Excellence in Financial, Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. So some enhanced debt disclosures. And then, again, note 12 is where I just want to point your attention to the restatement that was posted here in 2020, and that is on page 80 of the comprehensive annual report. And really what it was is the claims payable balance in the general fund was overstated last year by the tune of about $400,000. And the note 12 is just going to provide the detail as to how that impacted your beginning net position and fund balance respectively, and ultimately why that adjustment was posted. We'll just also mention, and this is also in our management letter, but note 14 gets into some significant GASBs that are up and coming for the village. So a couple of things to point out there. I've already had discussions with Joyce on these. No concern about the village's ability to get these standards implemented. There are quite a few of them. GASB's been pretty busy over the past couple of years and continue to pump out these GASB standards. We're up to GASB 97 now. With that, I'm going to shift gears to a few of our other deliverables. First of which is the SAS 114 letter. This is commonly referred to as a management letter, and it's our required communication with those charged with governance. So obviously the village board in this situation. And really what the SAS 114 letter, and again this is on BKD letterhead, and the top part of it says audit scope and results. That's the report I'm on right now. So the main reason for this letter is to provide you with an overview of how the audit process went, and also to make sure that you understand your role in overseeing the financial reporting process for the village. So the significant accounting policies is the first thing I'd like to mention. If you're new to your role in overseeing the financials here, or just want to brush up on the village's financial policies, Note 1 is going to be an area where you want to take a look at getting the detail for the village's significant accounting policies. That's Note 1 of the CAFR. No concerns with alternative accounting treatments. In terms of judgments and accounting estimates, so anytime financial statements, or in most cases when financial statements are put together, you will have some component of estimates in there. Our job is to review those estimates to ensure there's no bias in putting those estimates together. And significant areas that do have estimates involved is the pension and OPEB liabilities. Those are very dependent on actuarial calculations, which certainly have significant estimates in there. And also the useful life of your capital assets, along with your allowance for any uncollectible receivables. Financial statement disclosures, as I had mentioned, long-term debt obligations is one we would point your attention to. And also disclosures related to your pension liabilities and your OPEB, total OPEB liability. As part of our audit process, we did propose several material audit adjustments, which were attached to the letter, so you could see the detail behind those. We also, around just the audit process itself, so we did start working on the audit in the April timeframe. And that was more of a planning phase, and then July and August is when we really got into the year-end field work. Obviously, there was some transition by the village's finance department, within the village's finance department, so that certainly caused some challenges along the way for both us and village staff. But overall, I think, for a first-year audit where you're trying to do it remote and you're had some significant turnover in the finance department, I would say that things went really pretty well overall. The village did submit the comptroller AFR to the state comptroller at the end of November, at the probably midpoint of December, so that was on time. There was a 60-day extension, automatic extension granted, so you did submit timely, so no concerns from that perspective. And the CAFR is also being submitted to the GFOA, again, for that Certificate of Excellence in for Achievement in Financial Reporting, and we would expect that the village will also receive that award again this year. So, again, all things considered, I think things went pretty well overall, and certainly looking forward to a smoother audit once you get the initial year issues out of the way and have a little more stability within the finance department moving forward. As Joyce had mentioned, we did issue some findings, which are detailed in the third deliverable that I'll just briefly touch on, and that is the report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance based on our audit in accordance with government auditing standards. And as you look through this letter, I'll just point out we did not identify any areas of material non-compliance. What we did identify is internal control deficiencies and internal control over financial reporting and other areas. And that's what those findings are based off of. We reported a total of 5 findings, 4 of which were a material weakness and 1 of which is a significant deficiency. I know Joyce is going to spend a little more time on those, so I will not get into the nuts and bolts on those, but just want to point that out, that those are internal control matters and no material non-compliance was identified. So as I mentioned, we also render an opinion as to whether the TIF expenditures were eligible and allowable in accordance with state statute. We did provide our compliance opinion for all 4 with no issues on those either. So clean in relation to TIF opinions were also issued as part of our 2020 audit deliverables. I know that's a lot of information, a lot of different reports I had referenced, but I'd be happy to address any questions that you all might have at this point on any of the reports.
I can certainly appreciate the clean, unmodified opinion, John. I mean, we've been proud of that the last bunch of years, and obviously you folks, and I was told by Karen Bonham, our accountant, and she really handled quite a bit of work for us, oversaw in the absence of our finance director not being here, but then being a new BKD, being a new auditor to us, you folks had a lot of fresh questions, which is good. And that's part of the reason why you change auditing firms from time to time, so that you have fresh eyes on your books and so forth then too. So we appreciate the hard work you folks put into it. I think, what do we do? Do you know off the top of your head, John? I forgot. Is it a 3-year engagement do we have with your company?
I believe it's a 5-year.
5.
Okay, it was either 3 or 5, I couldn't remember. But yeah, obviously we're looking forward to, now that we've obviously, you're familiar with our books and so forth, maybe it runs even smoother next time around then too. I know you didn't take too much time, but there was just more time, especially with the
Remote.
I'm stuck for the word that you used again too. When you went back to look at one item, it took a little bit to...
Restatement?
Restatement, thank you. And hey, can I ask you too, John, do you know offhand, did Karen qualify, or did she get that certificate for accounting excellence? Did she get that at all too?
So you did get it on your 2019 CAFR, and I believe Karen did submit the 2020 CAFR for the...
I asked her to, so...
so that
okay.
should be done, and we would expect that you would receive that award again.
Very good, thank you.
Yep.
Okay. And as you said, I mean, that was a lot to kind of digest for a lot of the trustees, and so I was making some notes as we were going along here. I'm certainly going to go back and brush up on a couple of points. I'm familiar with the management letter. I was the one who wrote that and stuff, and to or helped write that. Otherwise, I can't think of anything else right now. Anybody else have a question? No? John, thank you very much for your hard work on this yet, too. So if you need John's name?
Yes.
Okay. If you would,
I was
John,
waiting for...
There's a log here just to say that you spoke to the board tonight.
Absolutely.
And we'll follow back up with our new finance director, Joyce Tucker, soon. Joyce can make me more aware of any, like you said, if there's an internal deficiency. She's done a great job of, Joyce hasn't even been here a month yet, but we're building everything that needs to be looked at and stuff like too, so.
Can definitely say Joyce has jumped in with both feet in terms of looking into the internal controls and making recommendations already.
Great, thank you very much, John.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you, John.
Joyce, did you have to add anything to it? Yeah, okay.
So I told John he would get to do the fun part. and I get to do the not-so-fun part. So we're going to go back to the findings that were discovered during the audit, and I want to discuss briefly. I know we have only till midnight. One of the things that we need to do is we need to have a formal year-end closing process, and I've already spoke with Karen about this, and I've already started collecting reports. I've been talking to Dan about the water department and getting some of those reports to start that formal closing process. I won't go into great detail, unless you all have questions. We need to also do a formal fraud risk assessment. I don't believe that the village has done that, or it's been a while since it's been done. Again, I'm putting documentation together to put that out, and John was kind enough to send us some checklists and documentation on that so that we can put that together. I'm looking at the fraud policy and the risk assessment to be presented to the board in April. So just so you're aware, that's coming. Capital asset addition, disposal, and monitoring. We do not have any kind of a formal process for capital assets. And as John said earlier, that is our biggest asset, is our capital assets. So we are putting together a capital needs list. You're going to see this coming in the budget. We're going to start defining those. We're going to use the industrial appraisal to start as a baseline, and we will start to build from there. But we will have formal processes and procedures before the end of this year.
Joyce, actually, I believe we do have a system for that right now. We used to, I'm stuck for the word right now, but we have a loss. Trustee, what was the name we had for that again? Where we
there was a fixed asset system that industrial appraisal many years.
Right. So we do have, that's what I meant, Joyce. This is what I want to say is I'll get together with that. And Roger Early, we do have an asset inventory and so forth, but as far as disposal of assets and whatnot, we do have a system for that that's in place right now. So I can get you familiar with it.
I think the biggest thing is it's not actually in our general ledger. It's kind of a side.
Everybody's kind of doing their own
Yes.
thing.
Right.
And bear with me when I say this. I mean, as an example, I was asking Jay where the titles were for all the cars, because those have the village of Alsip as the owner. And he said, well, we got them over here in a safe someplace, you know. Where's the titles for the rest of the vehicles? You know, we need to start to put those things together and have a formal process of addition and deletion and monitoring of when something's been depreciated. We rely on industrial appraisal and to provide us with that listing, and I know it's pretty thick. We need to make sure that those are correct, complete, so forth and so on. And what happens in between when they produce those? You know, how do we add or delete items at that point? I understand that Roger probably has his assets. There's more to it than just his assets.
No, I understand. And as Trustee McLaurin said too, that was the word I was looking for. We use like an add delete form, and there is a system in place for that. But again, like you said, you can centralize this then too. That's fine.
Yes, and be able to put it in the general ledger.
Right.
That's the most important thing. There was identified some issues with segregation of duties with the accounts payable clerk in terms of stuffing the envelopes with the checks. That is no longer happening. I am stuffing the envelopes for the time being, so she prints the checks, but I stuff them. So that's not a permanent solution, but it is a solution for the time being. We'll work on that. And then also we are in the process, just talked to Tom about it again today. Hopefully by the end of this month, we're going to have positive pay. Does everyone understand what positive pay is?
No, why don't you share real quick with everybody?
Okay. Positive pay is where you create a file. When you do a check run, you create a file that basically has the date, the check, who it's to, and how much. And that goes to the bank. So if anyone tries to cash that check number and put a different amount on it, it gets rejected. Or if someone tries to cash that check with someone else's name on it, it gets rejected. It's a way of catching any fraud that happens. It's a really good system and really simple too. We just need to get it implemented. So that should be done by the end of this month. So those are the findings that we had on the audit, and we're never going to be perfect, but we're going to try to be better. So I really want to thank John. We had a really good conversation for almost 2 hours, I think, the other day, and it was extremely enlightening and helpful. And I think we're going to have a really good working relationship in the future. Does anyone have any questions?
Not right now. Thank you very much, Joyce.
Well, we need to accept the audit when you get the chance.
Okay.
That'll be next Monday.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I forget.
It's on the
Yes,
agenda for next Monday.
That's right. Okay. Can I just stay here?
You can just stay there because you've got the next topic as well, which is review and approval of the FY20 Treasurer's Report.
That's correct. So we kind of approached it a little bit different this year. This is just a 6-page document. It's going to go in the newspaper this way. So you've seen it before, I'm sure. The numbers are, the revenues at the very beginning are directly from the audit. The compensation summary obviously is from payroll, and the expenditures are directly from our vendor reports where we printed the checks.
So we don't do any journal entry reclasses in this information?
No, absolutely
Okay.
not. This should be built from what we have. Now, in the future, this report is late, and I know it's late, but in the future, we should be able to do this as soon as our audit is complete, and we should be able to have this done. I think it's October 31st when it's due, somewhere in there. So the way we've built this now, Tom did this, by the way, and we should be able to just plunk reports into this Excel spreadsheet, and it builds it for us automatically. So it should be much more automatic and on time. Does anyone have any questions about this?
No, I saw it. Looks great, though, too. Yes,
Thank
looks
you.
good. Yes.
I want to go back to the audit for 1 second, and I want to thank Karen for the work that she did on this audit. It was exceptional, and she was put in kind of a hard position, but she came through, and I really want to thank her for doing that. Tom also produced documentation and reports for the auditors during that time, and I know that they were working double duty on that. I have one more thing that I wish to discuss that's not on the agenda. It has to do with ePay Illinois. Bless you. ePay Illinois is a part of Illinois funds, and I am going to be bringing to the board next week to change the principal authority and also to change the primary contact. So I wanted to make you aware of that will be coming before you. I need those minutes to send into them in order for this to be changed.
Very good.
Any other questions?
And it's just basically so everybody knows it's taking Kent's name off the documents.
It's just transferring, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much. Anything else, Trustee McLaughlin?
That is all I have under finance. I think
You know,
that's enough for one, right?
Exactly. I got distracted here when I was looking at the amending some minutes. And before we get too far away from the meeting, can I have someone make a motion in a second to approve numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the clerk's report to approve those committee meeting minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, it's actually 2, 3, and 4. The first one was a FOIA report.
Roll call number 1 to approve items number 2, 3, and 4 under the clerk's report. Trustee Delzell.
Yes.
Trustee Zelinski.
Yes.
Trustee Juarez.
Yes.
Trustee McLaughlin.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes.
Trustee Navis Barza.
Let's see. I wasn't a member of the board and I wanted to abstain. Is it too late to do that for 2, 3, and 4?
You can abstain.
Okay, so 2, 3, and 4.
Okay.
Oh, 2, 3.
That's what we're voting on now, is 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. There's just so much text that are jumbled up there. I just want to make sure I'm reading the correct ones. So I would abstain from those.
Thank you.
You're correct. You weren't on the board at that time.
Yeah.
All right.
Just a lot of text is jumbled in there. Just want to make sure.
Okay. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the fire report. Trustee Murphy?
Well, Mayor, do we still need to do 5 and 6?
Oh,
No, those will
Oh,
be
that's for
on
next week.
approval for next week because we have a correction to make on number 6.
Oh, okay.
Public forum. No, do we do public forum?
Yes, we did
that.
public forum.
Okay.
Mhm.
Sorry.
They were-
Under fire, I have a presentation on update of ambulance 2032. I was in talks with Chief Szynski today, and apparently the ambulance was having issues on the way to Palos Hospital. Just to kind of cut to the chase, it is being towed to be repaired today at 4 o'clock. We do not have any information on when we will get it back or the diagnosis of the repair, but his suspect is that it's much like the ambulance of 2019, where he suspects it's transmission trouble. He'll get an update to us as soon as he gets it, and hopefully it won't be too bad. But it is out of service at this point. Anybody have questions on that?
No, he said, like you said, he suspects might be a transmission.
Right. Number 2, I have the probationary firefighter Miguel Lewis started his recruitment training today, and he'll be on days until January 27th, and he'll be placed on shift, on the shift at the end of the month. And then also number 3 is Chief Szynski will be submitting a grant application through the Office of the State Fire Marshal's Office for the purchase and installation of 3 active air purification systems to be installed in each of the ambulances. Number 4, Chief Szynski will be submitting a grant application for this year's FEMA's Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program. The tentative request will be for wildland excavation, PPE, and a vehicle to be announced. To be determined, actually. And that's all I have, sir.
All right, thank you. Next, we have the Police and Traffic Safety, Trustee Dalzell.
The presentation of the Police Department November 2020 monthly activity report. Also, the presentation of the December 2020 monthly activity report. And then finally, the presentation of the Alsip Police Department's Federal Use of Force Certification Letter. And Chief, you want to take that away?
So in a nutshell, the certification letter says that we're compliant with certain provisions of federal, the President's Executive Order on Safe Policing, which was from June 16th of 2020. I'll go ahead and read this into the record. It just says, Dear Chief Miller, on behalf of the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, which manages the Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, ILEAP, this letter certifies that the Alsip Police Department meets the federal use of force eligibility requirements set forth by the U.S. Department of Justice for discretionary federal grants. Pursuant to Section 2 of the Presidential Executive Order on Safe Policing for Safe Communities, dated June 16, 2020, Executive Order number 13929, the U.S. Department of Justice discretionary grant funding is only available to state, local, and university or college law enforcement agencies that have obtained or are in the process of seeking credentials certifying that they meet certain standards on use of force. The Executive Order on Safe Policing empowers the U.S. Attorney General to designate independent credentialing bodies, including the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, to certify that law enforcement agencies meet the conditions of eligibility for federal grants. Following our review, we have determined that the Alsip Police Department meets the conditions for certification. Accordingly, the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police will include your agency going forward within our database for use of force certified law enforcement agencies. This certification is active for 3 years, beginning with the date on this letter. On a regular basis, starting in January 31st, 2021, we will provide the name of each certified law enforcement agency to the U.S. Department of Justice. Congratulations on achieving this certification. Please do not hesitate to contact us if you have questions or concerns. The biggest part of this letter is we do receive a significant federal funding in terms of our bulletproof vest grants, and we also have an officer assigned to the DEA, so we do get a significant amount of funding from those 2 programs, and it just keeps us in good standing with the federal government moving forward.
And they approved your use of force policy there too, Chief?
Correct.
Right.
It meets all the criteria criteria that they were looking for as far as updates and how we handle use and force investigations.
Chief, did you get I don't know if you get these memos that I get. Did you see the memo that came out just came out this afternoon from the Illinois Municipal League about legislation down in Springfield right now about police reform? Did you see that?
Yes.
Okay. That was a long read, that's all I'm saying.
I'll just stop there.
Yeah, that was a long read. So, all right. Thanks, Chief. And it's good to hear as well, too, that with the acceptance of that, too.
I just wanted to give mention to Sergeant Curtis Rainey and Lieutenant Valerie Emick that worked on this thing for about a week or so. And it went through real smooth. We got actually an email back saying how in line everything was. They didn't have to go back and forth with us about they need this, they need that. So I just want to give credit to those guys.
Good to hear. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
That concludes the report, Mayor.
All right. Thank you, Trustee. Next, we have the Public Work and Boat Launch. Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of the Public Works Department December 2020 monthly activity report. I have a request for approval to enter into a sub-award agreement between Village of Alsip and Morton Arboretum for the Green Infrastructure Project at the boat launch. And I have a request for approval to advertise for engineering through quality-based selection QBS to seek qualifications from civil engineering firms to perform Phase 2 engineering on the 131st Street reconstruction project. That's all, Mayor.
So I want to remind everyone real quick, I was talking with Mike Frater earlier today, Public Work Director. Mike, we had a great meeting with this project out at the boat launch that we're going to start in conjunction with the Morton Arboretum. While the grant, everything I saw in here, Mike, just went through this real quick with, eligible expenses and whatnot. I guess the biggest thing, again, that just to review here was that this is a $260,000 grant. Correct. And the village's cost share to this grant is only going to be $10,000?
$10,000, yes.
Right, okay. And Mike, let's put it this way, when do we want to tee off? When do we want to start this project?
So we're anticipating to break ground and removing the parking lot sometime in March.
Okay.
So of course we'll be putting together the bid specs and going out to bid for that portion of the project. So as far as awarding the sub-agreement, I mean, ideally it'd be approved at next week's meeting.
Very good. Because I'm looking at the award and execution of the agreement. The agreement must be signed by the successful grant recipient, signature, obviously my office and yours, representing the government institution, for final execution by March 1st, 2021, just so everybody knows the date on it. I just know it's when we have to execute the agreement, but I just want to know when are you thinking about starting work, that's all.
Yeah, it should start in March.
Okay. And we've got eligible matching costs and whatnot, and again, the use of funds, obviously for permitting with MWRD, removal of the parking lot, support for native plants, participate in planting native trees, shrubs, and so forth, support for volunteer activities. I know we have to come up with a maintenance schedule on this thing as well, too, once we're done, huh?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. The Green Corps will be heavily involved and will handle a lot of that in the beginning. But then it will become the responsibility of the village for maintenance. But again, you're talking of watering of trees and some of those plants over there. It's nothing too extensive.
They even use bold letters here, too, that the Village of Alsip must attest to caring for the trees and shrubs purchased through this grant by submitting a maintenance plan. The maintenance plan must identify who will water and mulch trees over the required 3-year planting period yet, too. So we got a little work in front of us on this baby.
And I think we're planning to plant anywhere between 15 and 20 trees, so it's nothing too crazy.
Right. And this will be open to the public and so
Yes.
forth then, too. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Mike. And, we'll put this on the agenda next week then for approval then, too. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Trustee Juarez?
No, that's all, Mayor.
Okay. And then we had the Sewer and Water, trustee Nava Esparza.
Thank you. I have the presentation of the Water Department December 2020 monthly activity report. That's all I have, Mayor.
All right, thank you. Next is Building and Health, trustee Zelinski.
I have a presentation of the Building Department December 2020 monthly activity report. Also, I have a presentation of the Health Department December 2020 monthly activity report. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
All right. Human Resource and Insurance, trustee Murphy.
I don't have a formal report, but I did get an email from Shanae outlining what her duties have been since coming back on board. And just to kind of highlight some of these items, aside from monitoring emails daily, responding to employee and retiree inquiries via phone and email, completed the open enrollment program. I know that was a big one that we were really pushing for, and I think it went pretty seamless. The distribution of company-wide OE notice to the employees, and processed OE benefit changes to the provider systems, as well as collaborating with the finance department to review development and individual retiree rates. There's a number of these as well, and it kind of goes on, but we're certainly glad to have her back and helping us through this. Do we have any update on any of the interviews yet?
We've probably gone through about 8, and just, you know what, I actually told her, just for conversation purposes, I always had that, I've liked a couple of them, but they didn't meet the job description that we issued, so we didn't want to drift from that too far. There was a couple of folks that had like real long duration with their companies that came up through the ranks, and they had HR capabilities, but I want to stay within the realm of the job description that we had. So we should have something probably present by next week.
Okay, great. And that's all I have, sir.
Okay. Special committee reports, economic development, trustee Nava Esparza.
Thank you. I last provided an update about the business interruption grant program offered through DCEO. In my last update, there were 11 Alsip businesses that received grant monies from DCEO. The round 2 of that grant application did close, and now I'm happy to report that there are a total of 15 Alsip businesses that received grant funding, and one of the latest recipients received $150,000 in grant dollars. So, I applaud the department heads seeking grant funding to fund some of the projects that they're taking on, or to help support some of their department needs. So there are grant funding available, grant funding opportunities for small businesses, and also other funding opportunities that have opened under the Small Business Administration is the Payroll Protection Program that opened today, and it's available to small businesses. So again, with grant funding or funding opportunities, if you don't apply, you never know if you'll receive them. So it's great to see also businesses that have applied for grant funding through DCEO, and it'd be great to see also small businesses benefit from some funding from the Small Business Administration as well. All the information is listed on their website. They have a PDF that lists criteria and forgiveness terms and so forth, so I encourage our small business community to consider looking into PP, payroll protection loans, to help them during this time of uncertainty. And that's all I have at this time.
I'll tell you real quick, it's nice you're encouraging folks to take advantage of those, because what you just said makes a ton of sense too. You're not going to get it if you don't apply. And I went through that list yesterday while I was trying to watch a difficult Bears game and stuff, and they had I was really happy for Chateau Boucher. They actually topped out. They got one of the best ones out there and stuff in too. And when I was passing out liquor licenses a couple of weeks ago, I was talking to the folks over there, and they still are trying to book weddings and whatnot. And that's a difficult thing during a time like this, but you might start seeing weddings on Wednesday night pretty soon if this thing lifts and stuff then too. But I was really happy for Chateau Boucher. They did well with that grant application. So next, Village Properties, trustee. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you have something else?
No,
okay.
That's it.
Village Properties, trustee McLaurin.
Just for informational purposes for everyone, excuse me, the Carpeting replacement bid specs have been posted on the website, and they will be published in the newspaper on Thursday, and we will be accepting bids until 3 p.m. on Monday, February 1st, and the bid opening will be that night at the board meeting. And that covers both Heritage 1 and Heritage 2 common area carpeting. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. Next, we have the ordinance legislation. Trustee Zelinski.
I have a discussion of an ordinance amending Chapter 15.5, Personnel, Article 2, Employee Requirements and Benefits, Section 15.5-43, Disability of the Municipal Code of the Village of Alsip. That's all I have tonight, Mayor.
What's your discussion?
The discussion is, I propose this ordinance change. It's to change the employees there that do not get the benefit of a full year of disability, the ones that only get 6 months, to be put up to a year, so all the employees get treated equally.
Trustee, I only got in the packet, I only had the ordinance that was submitted. Did you have other paperwork? I didn't see it then.
The ordinance, the current ordinance is in the packet,
Right.
And there was the change.
and the only change is the one word.
I see. So you want to change 6 months to 12? I didn't see that. And so I see, it was lined out. So, okay.
Mayor, I think it's certainly worthy of investigation. I would recommend, I know that the attorney had spoke briefly to the subject. I'd recommend that we have the attorney review with regards to the impact that may or may not have upon us, as well as finance. Take a look and just kind of give us a point of reference as far as what this may or may not cost us. When we looked at it last time, it didn't seem to me that we don't have that many exposures, but what that exposure could be or how much it could cost, I think it's prudent for us to know before we go ahead and go forward with it. I like the concept, but I'd like to find out what the ramifications are.
Right now,
Currently, police and fire all have 12 months as it is, so it would only affect basically Public Works and clerical here.
actually,
I thought it was 12 months for workman's comp.
it is 12 months for workman's comp. A non-duty disability is 6 months for everybody. There's nothing in the police or fire contracts that give 1 year of non-duty, like when it's not work comp related, there's nothing, and that's why we have an ordinance that says 6 months. Where did you get your data from?
From the fire chief, and I was talking with Trustee Delzell also for police. We were under the assumption that it was 12 months for both fire and police.
Because I had got some information from our attorney not too long ago that said that he had taken a look at both police and fire contracts, and neither offered 12 months of disability. So while everyone understands what a disability is, what you're asking then is that employees receiving temporary disability benefits will continue to be eligible for health care insurance under the following conditions. Now, so the way it stands right now, our ordinance reads, while an employee is receiving disability payments, he shall be included in the total number of employees reported to the insurance carrier is entitled to health insurance coverage. After, the way it reads right now is after 6 months of disability, except for job injuries, the employee shall become responsible for the cost of the insurance premium and to maintain his or her eligibility for the insurance. Each month, the employee shall pay the village an amount equal to the cost of his or her premium, which obviously is at 100%. So participation in the health insurance program on this basis shall continue for a period of the disability When the employee returns to work, the village will assume payment of the insurance premiums as they used to. So you want to take it from 6 months, and what you're asking for is to extend that to a 12-month of disability.
That's correct.
That's what I'm saying, Nick, you weren't saying that out loud, and I didn't see this mixed into the ordinance when this was in the packet. As Trustee Dalzell said, it only makes sense to work up an impact to the village as far as cost is concerned. Let me ask you, though, why?
Anytime a cost would be incurred would only be after an employee was already out for the duration of 6 months.
I understand that. That could happen once a year, it could happen 10 times a year. It's hard to say. Nobody's got a crystal ball when somebody might be on disability. Let me ask you, Trustee, why do you feel it necessary to double like a benefit that's there now?
One of the biggest reasons was, like I said, we're under the assumption that police and fire are already underneath that, and it would be, well, just the right thing to do to have all the employees be treated equally.
Because we negotiate collective bargaining contracts all the time.
I don't think this is this part of a collective bargaining thing, or is this just the benefit that the village gives?
I believe the police and fire was done by state statute. That wasn't covered by there. But as far as duty versus non-duty related, that part I'm not certain of. But I will look into it. I'm assuming that the attorney can advise on that just as well. I know that one of the last times we had a hearing, the previous law firm had moved to intervene to the regards of a workman's comp claim. So that changed some of the rules.
That's what I was saying. It's two different, obviously it's two different things we're talking about. One's workman comp, one's non-duty, non-work related, let's put it that way. So I would think, Trustee, if you're going to bring something like this in, we got to see some data to support, not just a conversation I had with a couple of people.
Well, actually, it states after 6 months of disability, except for on-the-job injuries. On-the-job injuries, I would imagine, would last longer.
They do.
We would be on the hook for that anyway.
Yes.
No. On the job, yes.
Could be related.
Yes.
Workman's comp.
Right.
Workman's comp.
But we're talking, this is, what you're asking for, this is disability, not workman comp.
That's correct.
Right. And what I'm saying is to ask the village to assume, to double this benefit, I would think we need some tangible data that we can look at yet, too. I mean, I'm not taking somebody's word for it. I mean, we need to see tangible data. And I would agree, Trustee Dalzell, I wouldn't take this any further until we do. Next, we have planning and zoning licenses. Trustee Juarez.
I have a presentation of a list of licenses dated December 31st, 2020 through January 8th, 2021.
Did anyone have any presentations, petitions, or communications?
I did just a reminder that there is no meeting next Monday in observance of Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so the board meeting will be on Tuesday, the 19th.
Thank you, because I would have been here on Monday.
You're welcome.
Any unfinished business?
Mayor, are we going to make the call to the attorney and to finance with regards to the looking at the data for that request
Which one?
for the ordinance?
I suppose we could. I mean, the trustee is the one asking for this. I would think you'd be doing your homework on this, right?
I'll need maybe Shanae's phone number for now.
Fine.
I can start there.
Yeah, email Shanae and start with her.
Yeah, she still has her village email address.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any new business? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We'll adjourn this meeting at 8:34 p.m.